Hi, it's Tom here with the Protection Dog Glossary. I'm going to talk about prong collars here, and I've got to admit right up front, these look like the nastiest, most inhumane, dungeon, kind of things, because they got these prongs on there that stick into the dog's neck, and it's like, ooh, you're rotten mommy or daddy, you're killing your dog with these. But actually, all the professionals will tell you that these collars are more humane by far, leaps and bounds over this type of collar that we'll cover in another video. This is called a slip collar or a choker collar, and aptly named because this collar just keeps getting tighter and tighter and tighter and tighter to choke the dog. That's why it's called a choker collar. And it's just got a slip knot here. That's why they call it a slip collar. So it gets tighter and tighter. This collar only gets so tight. You fit it to your dog properly, and it's designed, what most people say, is to simulate the mother's biting of the puppy's neck to give them that kind of response. And the reason it's more humane is because it'll only close so far. It will not keep closing, depending on how you adjust it. So, a little bit more about these. This particular one, if you can get a close-up here, Mark, has plastic tips on it. Tell me when you can see that. Now, I'll tell you why I got those. Again, because I'm a new protection dog owner, and the normal prongs do not have these. They're rounded tips. Now, some real sickos sharpen these tips, so that's not what we're talking about here. Even these ones are rounded and don't hurt. But what happened is what you have to be careful of is who you're going to believe on the web. So I read this one thing where a guy said that you should keep these on 24/7 for the first couple months so that the dog really forgets about it and totally is obedient. And I thought, yeah, that's right, this dog can be dangerous, I better get good control of him, and I listened to that advice. So I found out that is really bad advice. The guy's argument was that the problems of having it on 24/7 and the dangers of doing such a thing were less than the dog bolting out into the street. So, all right, so he had a little bit of an argument. But what I ended up doing, and I just cry when I think about this, I put sores all over my dog's neck, and it was just a really bad thing. It took weeks and weeks for his neck to heal up, and he never was crying or hurting, but it was irritating his neck, and these tough protection dogs are a little bit stoic. So anyway, don't do that. So on this time around, I only use it during the day when I'm training, and I put these on, and he hasn't had any problems, soreness. It doesn't control him quite as good. I mean, Mark was telling me he has a dog, and one of the old jokes is this is like power steering for a dog, right? Because he was a little hard to handle with just this collar, the choker collar. He turned into a little angel as soon as I put this on. Now, you have to be very careful, and there's all kinds of information on the web on how to fit these, because they're fitted very tight. And there's a couple different ones. This one is called a quick release. And some people don't really trust these as much. And they're supposed to be a little harder, easier to put on and more carefully adjustable. So that's a quick release one. Now, this one is a normal straight one. And by the way, I only use Herm Springer. This is the Cadillac of these, because the way these are constructed, sometimes they can come apart. The cheap ones, the imports, can get rusty on you. And so Herm Springer is high quality. But the ones that aren't quick release, and come in on this one, Mark, if you can. The way you put it on is you squeeze, tell me when, and take it apart like this, see? And then to put it back, you put it back in the hole. This is also how you adjust the length of these. You can take complete chains out of this and shorten it or lengthen it. And you can buy extra ones if you need longer ones. So anyway, this is the basic prong collar. And now there's another one, and it's interesting because this is the most expensive one I have. I think this was about $65. Couple things about it. If you can see, the teeth are a little different. This is much harder to try to take these links in and out. You can do it though. And it does have a quick release, a very simple thing with an extra locking mechanism that you can slide it in. And so it's pretty darn secure. Some people don't believe it is, but it's pretty secure. You push this down and it comes back out. But this was the least effective of all for my dog, who has really long hair. He's a German Shepherd dog. So it didn't really do that much, but it cost the most money. Another thing about them is they don't look as nasty, so people don't give you as much crap when you're walking down the street. And they make a cover for it so it looks like a regular leash. So if that's another Hermspringer thing, but if your dog has shorter hair, it might just work for you, but it is the most expensive of them. So, you know, there's tons of information online about the use of these things, so just be careful. Don't leave it on 24/7. Be careful who you listen to, but it is kind of power steering for your dog. Okay, I forgot to tell you something on the first part of the prong collar video, is that even though I have the prong collar on, what I do is I get my leash and I put it through, they call this the live link, it's like a D-ring. You put that on the prong collar. But since these prong collars are just not as sturdy by nature, doesn't mean this isn't good quality, it just means that by nature they're meant to be real flexible and loosey-goosey and all that. It's good to have a backup collar. So I get a really big slip collar and slide it around and hook the leash through both of the rings. And what happens is that since the prong collar is much tighter, the correction is given and the slip collar never gets tight. However, if the prong collar would break or fall off or fall apart or whatever could happen to it, now I still have control of the dog with the slip collar. So this is a critical point. Always do that. If you're out and about where the dog is in an unsafe area, like walking down the street, could run out into the street. When I'm doing it around in a fenced-in yard, I don't bother with this. But any place out where if this left, the dog would be in jeopardy, I use the backup safety slip collar.